Here is our fed starter. And I also have here my water, my filtered water. So I'm going to go ahead and put in about 2 cups of the fed starter directly into the water. And this has bubbled up so nicely that it's floating. The starter is floating in the water, which is a great sign. So hopefully you can see that. If not, it's okay. And that was 1 cup. Let's go ahead and add in the 2nd cup. And I said 2 cups. These are generous cups, so what you can take from that is it doesn't have to be an exact measurement. You're just doing about 2 cups. Okay, so as you can see, once I took 2 cups out, it deflates quite a bit. So I probably have still maybe like 1.5 cups of starters still in there. I may go back later and do something with that more, but taking those 2 cups out, you can see it's deflated quite a bit already. Okay, so let me get this out of the way for you. Put this over to the side. Now I'm just going to take my Danish dough whisk and I'm going to mix this up right here in the measuring cup. I like to mix the starter in the water first instead of just dumping it directly into the dry flour, because I feel like it incorporates better in the water first. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect. So now this is my flour and I've already added in the sea salt. So again, just follow the measurements in the recipe listed in the description below. So I'm going to go ahead and add my wet mixture of starter and filtered water to my dry ingredients of unbleached all-purpose flour and sea salt. Alright, and then we're just going to mix this all together. The process of mixing the dry ingredients with the wet ingredients is called autolyse. So right now we are doing the autolyse process, mixing it up. And then part of that process is also allowing it to sit, because just by putting these 2 ingredients together, the flour is not immediately going to fully hydrate. I'm sorry, the water is not going to fully hydrate the flour just by mixing it together once. So after you mix and incorporate these together and you let it set, the water then fully hydrates the flour as it's sitting there. Now, sometimes your dough, as it's coming together, is going to climb up a little bit on your dough hook like that. Or I'm sorry, your Danish dough whisk. So what I do is just take my little bowl scraper and I just kind of scrape down the dough whisk. I do have some dry bits right here that you can see. And I'm doing my best to, of course, get everything incorporated. But if you feel like your dough is just way too dry, or you have a big dry area like this, go ahead and just add some more water. And I'm specifically adding it right to the dry spot. And then continue to just work it all in. Definitely a good arm workout. Okay. And you may have to add water like that, depending on your area, your weather, your conditions, the humidity in your house. Today, like I said, it's a pretty warm day, but it's not like raining or anything, so I guess maybe it's a little dry too. But alright, so that little bit of water I think did the trick. So our dough has come together. Now you're not really looking to win any beauty contests at this point, because your dough is looking very shaggy. Right, so it's not a smooth dough yet, but it's still waiting to absorb all that water. Okay, so we're gonna let that set for about an hour. Then we're gonna come back and do our first stretch and fold. I am gonna cover this while it sets for this first hour, and then we'll come back and do our stretch and fold together. Here is our dough, and I just covered it with this little lid here. As you can see, still very shaggy, not smooth. I am wearing gloves because I prefer to do that when I'm handling the dough. And whether you're wearing gloves or you're using your bare hands, which is obviously fine, you want to make sure that your either bare hands or your gloved hands are wet. So I have just a little bowl of water there. So I'm going to try to do this so you can see exactly the motions that I'm going through. I'm just kind of grabbing about half of it, pulling it up out of the bowl, and I'm just kind of helping it along, and I'm going to give it a little shake and fold it over. So we're going to do this a total of 4 times. So I'm going to give my bowl a little quarter turn there. I'm going to pull up about half, give it a little shake, fold it over. My hands are getting kind of sticky, so let me just wet my hands in my bowl of water here. Quarter turn. Pull my dough up, give it a little shake, fold it over, quarter turn. Give it a little shake, turn it over. Okay, so still kind of rough looking. So what I'm going to do is just take my hand and I'm going to kind of cup it under, and I'm just encouraging a little tighter of a ball shape, so that way as it continues to ferment, I can give it a little bit more structure and shape without it expanding and going all over the place. And I'm just smoothing out the dough as I'm doing that. Okay, so nothing crazy. I'm going to go ahead and cover this again. I'm going to do a total of 3 sets of stretch and fold. So that was our first set. You can do these anywhere in intervals between 30 minutes to an hour and a half. You don't have to be super precise. Okay, here we are for our second stretch and fold. It's looking a lot smoother than last time. So let's go ahead and wet our hands again. We're just going to pull up. It's a lot smoother. A lot easier to work with this time. Alright, so that was 1. Quarter turn. Pull up. Give it a little shake. fold it over, quarter turn, stretch it out, give it a little shake, fold it over, last one. Let me re-wet my hands real quick. Gave it a quarter turn, stretching it up again. This one I'm having to help along a little bit more. That's okay. Give it a little shake, fold it over. Let's go ahead and tuck our ends under here. I guess it's the edges. Tucking the edges under. Alright, give it a little bit more shape. Alright, so that's it, and I will come back for the last and third stretch and fold set. Alright, my battery is getting ready to die, so I'm going to try to hurry and do this last set of stretch and fold. This is our third set, and our dough is really nice right now. So I'm going to stretch, fold, quarter turn. We're going to stretch, give it a little shake, fold, quarter turn. I'm going to stretch, shake, fold, alright, give it a little shake. So that was my last stretch and fold. I'm going to go ahead and just leave this until we get back from our dinner plans tonight. And then I will finish up preparing this and putting it in the banneton baskets when we return home. And it's okay because this will just sit and rest in the meantime. Alright, so we are back from our dinner plans from this evening, and excuse me, we are ready to prepare our loaves for bulk fermentation. Alright, so the dough has actually risen up quite a bit while we were gone, which is totally fine. You can see here lots of good air bubbles in there. Alright, so I've cleaned off the surface already, but I am going to put down a generous amount of flour. And then I'm going to use my bowl scraper to help get this dough out. Okay, that's a lot. Let me add some more on top here just to kind of make it a little more manageable to work with. Alright. So it's deflated now a little bit, some of that volume. That's okay. Not trying to take out all the air, but a little bit's alright. So I'm just gonna kind of roughly divide this as best as we can. I'm gonna set this one off to the side. Alright. I'm using round banneton baskets for this. So what we want to do is just kind of shape this. So we're going to take this, pull it up, pinch it together. That was one side. Let's go ahead and do it again on the other side. Then we're going to take these two ends, pull them up, pinch them together. These two ends, pull them up, pinch them together. Okay, so it's not really beautiful, but that's okay. We're not looking to win any beauty contests right now. So what I'm doing is just kind of taking my hand and tucking it under here to help encourage this ball shape. Alright. Now I'm just going to take some flour and generously apply to the top here. Now, with your banneton basket, this section here is your top. So that means you're going to put it face down in the basket. I'll show you what I mean. Here's your basket. Carefully scoop up your dough, and you're going to lay it face down in the basket. Okay? You can just kind of pinch these together here. Now, what I like to do also is take some of this excess flour and just kind of put it on your bench scraper side of your bowl scraper. Just kind of sprinkle some flour along there. Okay. Alright, so the reason I do that is I'm going to take some plastic wrap and lay it over the top here, because I'm going to put this in a plastic bag and I don't want the dough as it rises to get stuck on the plastic bag. So I'm going to put this in my bag here, and because I'm careful with these, I reuse them because nothing really touches them except for maybe a little bit of flour. So I'm going to put this one in the fridge overnight to bulk ferment. We are at the next day. I just pulled this banneton basket out of the fridge that had been bulk fermenting overnight. And overnight can vary for us anywhere between 8 hours to maybe like 12 hours. I have my Dutch oven already in my preheated oven, and I'm getting that warmed up. Because that Dutch oven is going to be very hot, I'm going to use some parchment paper to help us stay safe. So we essentially need to flip this because this is going to be the bottom that's on the Dutch oven. So I'm going to take my parchment paper and just kind of line it up here. Take my hand to steady it, and I'm just going to flip it over there. So when you pull your banneton basket up, I'm also going to take a dusting wand with just some additional flour, and I'm just going to dust a little bit on here. This is more for decorative purposes. So when you score the dough or you make any type of artistic scores in it and it expands in the oven while it's baking, you're going to get a nice contrast between the area that's floured and not. Alright, so since this is a round shape, I'm just going to go ahead and slash right here in like a half moon shape, and as this rises in the oven, this is going to create our ear. This slash is like a relief cut, so you want to make sure you go a little bit deeper, because as the bread bakes and wants to expand, this will give it a place to do it in a more controlled way. So for your artistic cuts, you want to make sure that you do these significantly more shallow, I guess you would say. When I first started doing this, I would accidentally, unknowingly, do it too deep, and so any designs that I would score would essentially, like what I call blow out. They would just expand too much and you would lose the design completely. So I'm just making very, very shallow slashes in there. I think I'm going to keep this one pretty simple and just do the one row of wheat leaves. I'm going to move this out of the way so we can make room for our Dutch oven. because it's pretty hot. I just want to take extra precaution to be safe, not to burn myself. I'm going to put some hot pads right here. Okay, here is our preheated Dutch oven. This is preheated at 450 degrees. I'm going to drop my dough in here, my loaf, in the parchment paper, taking care not to touch the Dutch oven. I did not preheat the lid, so I'm able to touch that for now. And I do that on purpose just to kind of make it easier while I'm maneuvering around. All right, so this is gonna go back in the oven, 450 degrees. We're gonna bake it with the lid on for 30 minutes. All right, so our 30-minute timer just went off. So we're gonna remove the lid, put it back in the oven, and we're gonna bake it for another 15 minutes just to get some color on the crust. All right, so our timer just went off. So let's go ahead and take a look at our bread. It's looking really good. You can lift it out by this parchment paper, but the last couple times I did that, the paper ripped. So I'm just going to use a spatula here to help me pull this out. Okay, so I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing here. Most of my artistic scores or little cuts did maintain. This one blew out just a little bit, but it's not bad. I might have been able to do even a little bit deeper to get a little bit more of a design in there, but I'm pretty happy with that. And then here is where you can see that the ear has risen up. So, I mean, this is very telling that this is a successful loaf. So I am very pleased with how this turned out. Hopefully seeing this process from start to finish will help you in your own sourdough journey. If your loaf, or maybe the first couple attempts of making a sourdough loaf, do not come out the way as expected, do not be discouraged. Just keep with it. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Even if it doesn't look the way that you expected or that you want, it's still going to be delicious. So have fun with the process, enjoy it. Don't waste your bread just because you don't like the way it looks. Still eat it, it's gonna be great. And like I said, hopefully this video helped you in learning the process. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below, and happy baking!